watch your footing through here. It can be like a little loose.
A little slidey?
Yeah. It's not bad, but...
Okay, I guess I'll introduce myself first. My name is Brent and I'm the Southern Rockies G Loomis rep. And excited to talk about the IMX-PRO Euro today. It's a new rod for us, and it's got some cool features packed into it.
That's a big bow, huh?
Oh, yeah. What? It looks so much bigger on the cider. You're going for the 3-point net job.
Yeah, here we go.
Dude, the long range net shots are killing me.
Right in the beak.
Hey, he ate the nymph! Yeah! I'm nymphing!
So each rod in the IMX-PRO series has a purpose-built taper, and that's kind of the whole genesis of IMX-PRO. Euro's an interesting challenge when it comes to taper because we're fishing 6X and 7X, and we still want a positive enough rod that there's sensitivity. There's a weird perception around sensitivity that a softer rod gives more sensitivity, but that's actually not the case. I'm sure you've written with a number 2 pencil and you can feel the grains in the paper as you're writing. There's no give in a pencil, not much. If you had a fly rod that had no taper and was just solid stiff all the way through, that would be the most sensitive fly rod. Every single input that happens at the tip is transferred all the way down the rod to your hand. So how do you make a rod that protects 6X or 7X tippet but is still extremely sensitive? When you go to set the hook, you need to have enough stiffness to get the hook through the skin or the jaw of the fish. But then immediately after the hook gets into the mouth, you need the rod to give to protect that tippet. So the tip is stiff enough to bury the hook. By that time, you've activated the lower sections of the taper that have more give. And now, as you get closer to the butt section, there's plenty of give in the mid to lower mid, but then the butt section locks up enough to fight fish and feel like you're in control still, while having over half of the rod plenty bent, giving you plenty of tippet protection. It's actually a pretty complex taper for just a nymphing rod. We have a synthetic fighting butt, a pretty small fighting butt, but enough to bury into the forearm when you're fighting fish. Being that it's synthetic, set it on the rocks, bang it around, it's not going to get torn up. But you'll notice it's quite short. That's on purpose. Eurofishing balance matters a ton. It wears your arm out when you have an unbalanced rod. So we wanted to slide the reel as far back as we can without having to use a super heavy reel to balance the rod. Slide the reel back, it's a better lever. That moves us right into the down locking reel seat, which again just helps us achieve the weight as far back as possible. And then right above the down locking reel seat is the cork. The cork's kind of unique on this. I call it a 2-phase cork, but really it's just a different shape that allows you to either sit back on the reel seat and give you extra reach. There's always that time where you want to reach over that seam a little further. And then there's also people that like to put a finger on the blank and get that direct feedback from the sensitivity of the rod. So the cork is comfortable when you're riding up on the blank with your finger on the blank or down on the reel seat. Other part of that, we're just moving right up the rod. We did move the hook keeper forward towards the tip of the rod, which allowed us to move the resin, which is covering up the wraps that hold the hook keeper on, move that out of the way. Normally the hook keeper is right above the cork, right where your finger would be, so you'd be feeling the blank through a couple balls of resin. We've moved that resin forward, now you have direct contact with the blank. The stripper guide, the first guide, is on the butt section of the rod. So it's as close to the cork as you can get while still allowing line to shoot. Essentially having the stripper guide closer to the cork means less sag, just a unique Euro feature. Once you get past the first two stripper guides, or the first two guides, then we move on to single foot guides. Essentially, if you use single foot guides throughout the whole guide train, it saves the weight of 2 full snake guides. I think the easiest way to explain it is if you were to put a diving board and you go jump off the diving board, it kind of recovers pretty quick. Same with the rod as you're casting, they recover fairly quick depending on how heavy they are. Now imagine putting snake guides, adding that weight. If you put a ball of cement on the end of the diving board, it's going to wallow a lot further or a lot longer. So reducing even small amounts of weight as you get closer to the tip makes a huge difference on rod recovery. Unique to IMX-PRO Euro, we used our GL7 resin, which is a nano silica resin. It's what was used on the old NRX, the NRX LP that everyone's so familiar with. The molecules in a nano silica resin are essentially marbles. They're perfect spheres. So you can pack them in very neatly on the molecular level, and since they're so neat, they're very, very strong, and you can use less resin. Keeps the rod lighter, and that's another reason of why IMX-PRO Euro is so light for the price point, and it's so sensitive. It's a pretty crisp resin. If you picture like a bowl of marbles, that's what the molecules in this resin looks like. If you're the technician and you want to get as small of a bead as you can, as deep as you can, the 2-weight's going to cast them a little easier, loads up a little easier, but you can still throw some pretty big beads, and we were throwing a jig streamer earlier on the 2-weight, and it was doing just fine. The 3-weight was a little bit more accurate with those heavy jig streamers. It has a little better turnover. The 3-weight, the advantage there is you do have that 10'6" length as opposed to a 10-foot length, so there's a little more reach. Those of you that are still struggling to get good drifts far away might benefit a little from the 3-weight, but you are probably going to have to size up your anchor fly just a little bit to make the 3 a little more fun to cast, a little easier to cast. So the main difference in recovery is it's actually a little bit different between the 2 and the 3. Since the 10'6" 3-weight is in fact 6 inches longer than the 10-foot 2-weight, the tip takes a little bit longer to recover. It has to travel further because it's 6 inches longer. So if you're fishing scenarios where you need to come in contact with the flies right when they get on, the 10-footer might be a better option. That's a fairly unique scenario, but there's plenty of times where you want to be in contact right away. So a little plus and minus of each there. Less reach on the 10-footer, but maybe a little bit quicker recovery and a little quicker contact. So today was pretty awesome. We fished deep runs, shallow riffles, and pockets. We covered a whole variety of water types, and the IMX-PRO Euro definitely helped us elevate our subsurface game. It's a feature-rich rod with a purpose-driven taper at a great price point. It's actually crazy to me that it's October, the leaves are changing, the water's cooling down, it's full-on streamer season, and I had a blast Euro fishing all day today. So we did throw some Euro streamers and got some eats on that right away, but normally streamer fishing, you fish a hole, a couple casts, and you move on. Well, yeah, we jigged some streamers, hooked a few fish, cut those off, put the nymphs on, and then cleaned up the rest of the hole. Like, we had a great day today. Started off in a deep run with heavy nymphs, deep and slow. That was a good warm up. Then we kind of moved into some more pockety water, which was way fast action. You know, lighter flies closer to the surface. Had some fun hooking fish there and getting wrapped around rocks. And then we, you know, we saw a few dries, but not quite enough to convince us to go for that. But yeah, it's been a fun day. We fished every type of water there is, and the Euro rod got it done.
Bloop.
That
Nice,
sounded
dude.
like a way bigger splash than his body would allude to.